Hey folks, and welcome to a Daily Ratings podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The Daily Ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing The Frighteners, directed by Peter Jackson, 1408 by Mikael Hofstrom, It Follows by David Robert Mitchell, we have newly released Smile by Parker Finn, and finally, Amsterdam, directed by David O. Russell. So stay tuned and enjoy the show. Mr. Vincent Daly, how's it going, buddy?
Tommy boy, how's it going?
It's going okay for me, and how's your week in movies, man?
A week was good. We are finally into the week of horror for October.
Yeah, we had some spooky stuff here.
Yeah. Obviously, Smile is a real big release. Amsterdam thought was going to be a big release, looking like to be a flop. So
Kind of a shame. We'll see if it deserves it, though.
Yeah.
We'll see if it deserves it.
And I'm really excited because I have some deep cut horror films that I'm going to be tackling this month, and just excited to give them a shot. I really don't know heads or tails if they're going to be good, so I'm excited to cover them.
Yeah, and of course I'm excited for this one because this is Peter Jackson. We're back in 1996. What is The Frighteners? Where are we in Jackson's kind of career, and what kind of films has he been making?
Yeah.
And what is The Frighteners?
So far, 96, Jackson has been directing, I think, one or two dramas, mostly horror, though. And like I noted in our Fellowship of the Ring review, I found it impressive how many little genres the film juggles, primarily suspense. So going back and looking at Peter Jackson's film career, a lot of his work being horror, I was very curious to give it a shot because I don't think a lot of people have seen this. I don't think a lot of people have seen any of his early works.
No, honestly. Anything pre-Lord of the Rings, not a whole lot at all.
Yeah.
Some would say post-Lord of the Rings, too.
Right. Exactly.
No, but this is his era of horror and spooky or weird, kind of. Some of them had a cult following around in the late 90s, but so much caught on, of course, after Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And then you all had, the people who love culty horror stuff,
right?
Naturally latched on pretty good. But what is this? Is this like one of his goofy ones, or what do we like? Kind of, what's the premise of this one?
So my research with all of these is that they're all kind of horror comedy. Frighteners is a story that follows Michael J. Fox, a kind of spiritual medium con man that uses a ghost, kind of a crew of ghosts, to frighten people into needing his services. The ghosts of a mass murderer kind of gets in his way of this conning, and slowly starts to continue its killing spree. That's what gets Michael J. Fox involved in this, and it is a very, very 90s film, I'll tell you what.
Oh, does it feel very 90s?
You look at this poster of Frighteners, and it looks scary. Like, it's got the main mass murderer ghost. It's kind of this wall monster thing, and it looks like a scary movie. But this comedy turn, it wasn't that good, folks. I'm not going to keep the charade going too long. Normally with a director's study, I would start at the, much more in the beginning of their career, or where there is a lineup of iconic films in some way.
Right, yeah.
I chose Frightener is in part to tackle one as blind as possible, because I really didn't want to go in and say, oh, I really enjoy Jackson's next films, his trilogy, I'm going to enjoy this. I did not want that. And part, I didn't know how much I actually wanted to cover from him, because these films, these horror comedies, they're odd.
They're odd, and I would say, I don't even know the names of them, but I know there's two that still remain have a big cult following.
Yes.
They were not big or successful when they came out by any stretch of imagination, but since have garnered a pretty big cult following.
Yeah, Dead Alive.
Okay,
I think is the other one that is pretty big, and I think we're definitely going to be covering that with him.
Is that the
month.
puppet one? Kind of a lot of puppets used.
I'm not too sure actually. I actually don't know too much about the film.
Yeah,
so.
we'll have to go through.
Yeah.
But as far as Frighteners goes, it's an hour and 50, and a young kind of looking Michael J. Fox here.
He's terrible in this.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I really been this week. I was looking at actors. I'm like, I don't know if I'm even a fan of these actors anymore. Cusack was another one. I was just like,
I've never liked Cusack.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. We can get into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But specifically for Frighteners, this is the film before he starts his trilogy. Now, granted, there's a good 4-year gap in that.
Well, it's because I believe in '96 is when he starts. Well, him and his partner Fran Walsh start writing.
Oh, really?
The
Okay,
script.
4.
And then they go pitching it in '98, I believe. But the earliest, or maybe even pitching it earlier, but the earliest started actually in '96.
Sure. I was kind of scratching my head over this film because I would have loved to come to you, Tom, and folks at home to say, "Oh yeah, man, you can see where he got his chops for suspense, going into Fellowship." But no, it's not. This film is really not good. It's very 90s in its approach to creepy comedy. I think this is especially driven home by the Danny Elfman score. This is also rated R, which makes the horror itself a bit intense, but I really would place this more to tame films like Beetlejuice, Addams Family, and even Casper, and I'll mention Casper again later on. Oh yeah, I swear to God.
But it's just like when it's gory, it's extra gory. Then it's like rated R gore.
Yeah, there's like some body mutilation with ghosts, and that's really pretty much where the rated R comes from.
Interesting.
Totally unworth it though. I mean, worth a watch in the sense that this challenged my latest type of everything needs to be rated R.
First time you're ever going, why is this rated R?
Yeah, it really didn't need it, and if anything, it kind of hurt it. But yeah, these type of movies, again, Beetlejuice, Addams Family, Casper, I'll call it kind of a pre-goth genre, if you will, of the 80s and 90s. And honestly, all of these are better watches than Frighteners. The CGI is flat out not good. It's a shame because our main antagonist, this mass murderer ghost, I forget the actor's name. He played something in Starship Troopers. Man, it just looks so bad. It's like this wall monster effect that the wall is protruding and it just moves way too quickly. It's way too digital. Then there's even a poor quality that the wall monster wraps around real characters, and that even looks even more dated because it's clearly they're not being grabbed by this thing. It's oof.
Was it Weta?
No, I don't. I have no idea. I did not do research into that. But,
okay. It might have been. Honestly,
as far as the CGI work, it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, I gotta say. I mean, super dated visual effects. It's a shame because there is a cool aspect to the main antagonist ghost, or this wall monster phantom. But it's not good, and really took me out. Other ghosts are presented visually identical to the effect we see in Casper 1 year earlier, which is it's weird to call this film on the shoulders of Casper, but it really is. Real actors are made slightly translucent and tinted blue. Not terrible, not great either, but specifically, my note here is that some of the CGI work, and then as well, some of the spirit realm work, it just doesn't look good. And I have to say, really not to dig into Michael J. Fox, because this is clearly not like his main, this is not where he's cutting his teeth as an actor or anything like that. But like, he is just terrible in this. He's so bad. He's trying to act like way too cool for his own good, and it's not good. And when he interacts with the paranormal aspects of this, there's a serious disconnect as well. And it was tough. The style that makes up the Frightener crew of these ghosts, it seems to be the only reason why we have a rated R rating at all. It's like I said, it kind of makes gory jokes out of them. They will get cut up, body parts will fall off. The effects don't look terrible, and who knows, maybe that's where some of Weta, if they were involved at all with this? Because how far does his roots back go with Weta? I'm honestly not too sure.
With Jackson?
Yeah.
I feel like they came... I honestly would have to go. I knew it at one point, but I almost think Weta was born from Peter Jackson.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah,
so it's
I don't know if they...
Industrial Light Magic with Lucas or something like that.
Yeah, I could be wrong at that for people listening. It could be they just were both small productions, started up in New Zealand, and then joined forces. But I do think, I want to say that Weta was spawned by Jackson.
Okay.
But yeah, because I think some of the earlier stuff, like that film we were talking about with like the puppets and the puppeteering and almost, I think that was Weta's doing.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
so I think they were constantly in business together.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, my criticism more so is pointed towards, these slight body horror jokes with the ghosts. Not worth the rated R rating. Not worth the jokes. They're not funny. They look mildly okay.
Were you sitting there the entire time being like, how did the Lord of the Rings come out of this guy and his team?
100%.
Isn't it weird? I mean, because
who would give him a chance on a trilogy? Let's take the IP out of the equation, entirely. No less Lord of the Rings.
Right.
Who at New Line was just like, yep, you get 3 movies. You want to make them all at once?
Well, the funny
sure, go crazy.
Well, the funny thing was, the Lord of the Rings was supposed to be 2 movies. Peter Jackson pitched it to every studio as 2 movies.
As 2, okay.
It was New Line who said, this isn't 2 movies, this is 3 movies.
I see.
Which is even crazier to take even more of a bet and money. It's unreal.
Yeah.
And then we get such good, like... The Lord of the Rings is the Fellowship of the Rings, your favorite one. Like it's insane.
I know. It's like even going back to our some I believe last week's episode or the week prior. Of course, producers wrote in and we were talking more about we were happy with the fact that Jackson directed this. So I can't stress enough. I like Jackson as director. I'm really happy what he did with the trilogy.
Where did it come from?
Yeah. It's certainly not in the Frighteners. I was also laughing the whole time because it's like it really is just like just such an ass name for a film. It's so bad. But yeah, that's really the whole movie. Unfunny and slightly spooky. Michael J. Fox is just lacking star power and good acting, honestly, to lead the comedy here. If I'm being critical of this film, it's incredibly derivative for 96. I don't see this film getting anything more unique or novel to the comparison to its creepy comedy horror peers. Again, as G-rated as Casper. I actually don't know if Casper's G-rated or not, but
probably PG.
A child's film.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Most disappointingly, as you may have picked up, folks, I have found next to nothing in Jackson's filmmaking to show as a precursor to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So I would say, I'm taking my lumps with this one. This was kind of a failed exploration of style and looking at a director here. So I'm going to say flat out, don't bother with this one. I think any of the other films I've mentioned are much better alternatives and do so much more without that R rating. We're going to go ahead and give The Frighteners a 34.
Wow. Ooh, boy, okay.
Yeah.
What a jump for Jackson, though. 34 to an 85.
Right. I know.
And I guess we have to go further back in his career to some of those cult hits. And there was one drama that actually was nominated for heavy awards.
There's a 3-movie stretch, and that drama, I'm forgetting the name of it.
I think he gave...
Oh, go on.
Maybe we were about to say the same thing. I think he gave, Kate Winslet her big break.
Oh, really?
And that's the drama. That she was,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. To be fair, I also don't know if Dead Alive is this puppet one that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But that's the only other really, really notable one. He does have a... Yeah,
I think there's 2.
Yeah, there's actually his first one is kind of culty. I think it's called Bad News or something. I don't know. But yeah, either way, we got to go back.
We'll go back. We'll go further back.
We got to dig a little deeper.
Okay, so that was 1996 here. We're jumping to 2007. This movie is just called 1408. It's directed by Mikhail Hofstrom.
Nice.
Here we have Kuzi. We have Kuzak.
Kuzi.
And what is this?
Cannot call him Kuzi.
What's this film? Kind of set it up for us because what's their premise that we're dealing with?
Sure. So this movie is based off of a Stephen King short story coming out in the same year as The Mist, which is kind of, again, a little bit of an odd Stephen King story, one I enjoyed, though. This story feels a bit meta, with John Cusack being a character that is a paranormal writer. He specializes in kind of a somewhat trashy paperback top 10 haunted hotels, and even has his own 1 to 10 skull rating. We'll see if I give a skull rating to this film or not. When it seems like he has seen it all and has built up a shell of cynicism, he checks into room 1408, a particular room of a Manhattan hotel run by Samuel Jackson himself.
Yeah.
So Sam Jackson has been has been on our tongue, so I'm glad I could see him in movies. He's unfortunately not he's only in like 3 scenes in this one.
It's just the manager that pops in.
Yeah, he was too busy doing, I guess, Press for Snakes on a Plane or something like that. So, yeah, I think this is an interesting story. I really enjoyed the pure horror aspects of it. I think there is a cool quality that it's a King story that is about a writer. I enjoy a lot of those. Misery, a perfect example. Cusack is written to be one cool dude, though. He surfs. He has a basketball in his office. He has got the cig in an ear. He's got a toothpick in his mouth.
Doing their best they can.
The whole film, he kind of narrates his experience through a tape recorder, which kind of gets a more of a detective noir type of feel to it a little bit. I have to be honest, though, I really wasn't in love with his acting too much. He's even a little Nick Cage-ish in parts. He gets some Nick Cage freakouts.
Yeah, I could see that.
Which certainly is funny, but viewer beware if that's not something that you like. Maybe Cage fans, guess what? That's a good green light, but not great here. And I don't have a lot of watch time with Cusack. I think he does a decent job here, but I was never really hit with a moment where I was invested in his performance. And it's a shame, because I think this film does have a lot to love about it, especially related to the pure distilled horror aspects of it. I don't know, maybe if you want to shed light on your history with Cusack.
I barely know him. I don't see a lot of stuff in him because I don't like him. I feel like just every movie that I've seen, I'm just unimpressed.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not much. And we didn't grow up with him like other people did in the 80s.
Right.
Like he had one film and he's just riding on. I mean, I feel like he's just literally just riding on that.
Hating on Cusack. Listen,
right?
I agree. Ultimately, I agree.
Whatever his big films, other than the one in the 80s.
High Fidelity is on the list at some point that we got.
Yeah, as it should be. It should be. But since then, I mean, I think the biggest thing he's done since might be literally Hot Tub Time Machine. And that's and I just don't, I don't think his acting is like I'm never impressed with him.
Yeah.
And he's always kind of a little irritating.
Sure.
Nothing on the Ruffalo scale.
Oh, Ruffalo is your white here.
Right. Like
I
actively hate Mark Ruffalo.
Wow.
Cusack I just don't think about.
Sure.
Koozie boy. So
Koozie.
Did this have good horror in it?
Yes. I think why this is a watch, folks, is the pure horror aspects. The hotel room of 1408 is best described by Samuel Jackson himself, and he says, it's not specters, spirits, or phantoms. That room is fucking evil. And that is what this is about. It is about the room itself kind of being a subversion of the things that Cusack's character normally goes after. He's going after the rogue ghost story. He's trying to make these schlocky, paperback, things to kind of spook you just by the description, but there's nothing really of substance there. And I think it's a good subversion of it. This paranormal writer. The horror of it is not the imaginary ghosts he profits off of, it's the destination itself. There's also a cynical commentary on how the locations get a bump of tourism after he writes about them. So having those destinations work against him is a really nice thematic tie to it. I think most of all, what's impressive about 1408 is how much they do with the set design in this one little hotel room. And I can't say it's entirely in this hotel room, but there's a lot of surrealist aspects. There's a lot done with set work as far as we're talking about the practical effects work that is enjoyable here. Definitely refreshing, and definitely that distilled horror that I was looking for this month. Samuel Jackson is great, like I said, but it's only a sprinkling. We get three brief scenes with him, and then he's out. And in my notes, I said, Snakes on a Plane. Maybe he was doing Afro Samurai in 07, I don't know. But definitely missed because he was a good element and kind of breaks up. I think part of my problem why I put so much emphasis on Cusack's performance is we spend so much time with him.
He really is the one in the film.
Yeah. We spent, it's just him in a room. And the room evolves, certainly, and there's a lot to it.
Right.
There's not a lot to the Cusack. So the horror itself feels very in line with Stephen King. Like I said, it's pure and distilled. I'll kind of call this blood in the sink syndrome. It's
okay.
It's not like a monster. It's not anything. It's paranormal activity around him.
Okay.
And really felt very similar to things that we've even seen in, let's say, the TV It special or something like that.
Yeah.
Even this being 2007, it still felt like that type of classic King horror with it, which I think that's great. This is a short story. They're clearly doing work to grow it. I didn't really have a time to deep dive into this one and see what they're growing from the short story. Is it the story elements or is it the horror element?
Right.
What's kind of blown out for the film?
Sure.
I think they did a great job. It's really more so that the performance was kind of attracting, how positive I was to the horror elements of this. Most of the time, the effects work is spot on too, leaning a surprising amount on set work. Like I said, there's a lot done with the room itself. I think one effect relating to kind of some static ghosts, I wasn't really a huge fan of, but not terrible. Nothing that I would say stay away from. Like Frighteners.
Right,
Frighteners, the CGI was almost like, no, like a hard no. So, last thing I'll note is in this film has actually 3 separate endings.
This I didn't know.
Yeah, was trying to do some research into this. Real hard to tell which ending is canonical and real, which ending belongs to which edition of the film. I'll say this much: if folks you decide to give this film a watch, seeing the 3 endings, I kind of felt the same way about all 3. I was kind of walking away the same way.
So did you have to actively go and search for different versions of is it 3 different versions of the film? Or in the one film, it ends 3 times?
Oh, no. 3 different versions.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
so you went out and saw these 3 versions.
Exactly.
Watched the ending.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Again, if folks at home, you watch this, maybe it's worth maybe hopping over to YouTube just to see what the different endings are.
Right.
I think that's a much better way to approach it. And I think critically as well, me walking away feeling the same with regardless of which ending would have been tied into it, or even the first one that I watched. I don't think it was really worth having a conniption over of where do you find the right version of 1408,
right. And so if you were go on Amazon and buy it, it's pretty much one theatrical version.
Yes.
Right? It's not going to be a hodgepodge. You might get this one, you might get this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And technically speaking, I mean, this is going back to this ties back to our commentary of DVD sales and kind of post-theatrical releases.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some of these alternate endings were just like special features, and then they found their way into an edit somewhere or something like that.
Right.
But either way, though, I mean, I really was walking away the same with all 3. But maybe, like I said, jump over to YouTube afterwards, pick your favorite ending, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, with that said, we are going to go ahead and give 1408 a 67.
67 is not a bad film.
Yeah, it's not bad. Cusack didn't sink it, and I think, allow me to say, I didn't really make a note of it, but if you are a fan of Cusack, maybe...
Crickets.
This could be a watch,
Sure, no. I mean, 67
was he really like I guess if you grew up in the 80s, Cusack was
because of the one film, that was it.
Yeah. Was Cusack the one when he holds up the boom
Yeah,
box?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's, like I said, he has been writing that. I'm sure he had relatively big pictures, but I think it's that. And I'm not joking when I say Hot Tub Time Machine.
Right. I love these hot takes.
And I'm sure that's wrong. But, people want to hate on us. That's cool, too. If you want to write in, we're all good with that. Okay, so that's 1408 with a 67%, which, again, 67% is like a good movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think...
So if you're in the mood for, it's an hour and 45-minute horror, and if you just like it's a cool take on Stephen King short story, give it a watch. Mm-hmm. Cusack aside, yeah. Okay, so we're going to jump here to 2014. This film is called It Follows, directed by David Robert Mitchell. And what do we get here, Vin?
So I'll be honest, Tom. I saw Smile, and spoiler alert, I was not too big of a fan.
Okay.
And like with all of my watching lately, it made me think of better films. And this one is going to be a short one because I love this film.
Did you?
And It Follows is something that I've seen multiple times.
Oh, okay. So this was not your first. Okay.
Yeah, I can't say that I have a number. I want to say maybe ballpark 5, this being the 5th time watching it. And honestly, it really just gets a blanket recommendation. So I'm not really going to be going into too much detail here. There is a stalking quality in both of these films, Smile and It Follows. But as the name suggests, It Follows is built directly around that horror premise. I don't even feel the need to summarize because it's all in the title. It follows. It's right there. You don't need much more. What I do want to talk about is, believe it or not, one of the most prevalent aspects of this film being the soundtrack, as it is really one of my absolute favorite soundtracks.
What?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't even remember this film ever.
Really?
I think I kind of remember us talking about it a little bit. But who did the soundtrack?
Soundtrack is done by Disaster Piece, a composer who first got famous in kind of a video game space. He did the indie game Fez, also Hyperlight Drifter, indie games, so no problem if folks at home, you don't really recognize that even as a gamer. And he specializes in this retro chiptune kind of feel to his soundtracks.
Okay, right up our alley.
Absolutely. This is taken to such a wonderful quality, though, and folks, I'm not just saying this because I'm a fan of video games or a fan of retro sounding type of soundtracks. This video game aesthetic plays directly into the theme of innocence and the loss of that innocence in this film. Characters speak of nostalgia, yet are still children themselves. The setting is a cool fictional mashup of equally 60s, 70s, 80s suburbia, and this is, way before we get the nostalgia-obsessed Stranger Things,
definitely.
Years later. You see, this choice of style is not just window dressing, or like I said, kind of a nostalgia bait like we would see in Stranger Things. The horror is tied directly into this theming when early on it's revealed that it follows you after having sex. The feeling of coming of age is then twisted into horror, and this soundtrack has a really haunting quality to it because on the surface it sounds innocent. It sounds like a Game Boy. You started up a Game Boy almost. Okay. And how that is twisted into this, terrifying horror. It is so good. Expertly matched
that's
together.
Cool.
It's so it is oozing atmosphere, is oozing style, and I think the difference between what we've talked about a lot, film can have style. Is it tying into the substance? And this, absolutely, it plays into that innocence, that loss of innocence. It's so brilliant.
How important is the music to the film then? Like, does it make it?
I think it makes it.
Okay.
I think it makes it, but in a way that it elevates it. I wouldn't necessarily call it a crutch.
Okay.
Again, maybe you walk into this film blind. You say, "Oh, that was a very interesting score that was composed for this film."
That's where I know the name.
What?
Hey, did Bodies, Bodies, Bodies?
Yes.
Okay.
Once again, he's sneaking on the Google Notes, folks. He's stealing my.
Sorry.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, I would say. To my colossal disappointment, I did not look at the composers for Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And actually, after the fact, I found this out. And I was like, I have to cover It Follows because I have to give a spotlight to Disaster Piece.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He is such a awesome composer, and I mean, clearly, it was not known to me in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Clearly, it was a secret element behind my enjoyment of the film.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I think very realistically, that could be the case here. It follows having this straightforward, almost even, one-note horror premise of it following. You could walk into this and say, oh, that was good. I actually don't know maybe why I enjoyed it so much. And again, the soundtrack being a secret ingredient to that success. And I think it's a perfect example, honestly, of where style is substance. It's not just style.
Oh, yeah. There is a difference there.
Absolutely.
So with this film, it's an hour and 40. So are we following a main cast member or multiple? You said that once when you have sex, it starts to follow, or whatever this is. Large cast, or are we dealing with basically one person?
Our main star, Mika Moreau, I believe her name is. We actually covered her in Watcher earlier in the year.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. All right.
And obviously that being her new release for her. She, in a very kind of 80s nostalgia style, it has a group of friends.
Okay,
a group
gotcha,
of, not misfits exactly, but, the local kids of the neighborhood that are there for her. Another great small factor that you can pick up is that we never really see too many adults, specifically parents, specifically anything like that. And again, it kind of relates into they have this innocence. They're almost talking like the innocence is already lost. They're talking about the good old days. And they're children. You know what I mean? They're not even like seniors in high school or anything like that. This whole theme of lost, the innocence lost, kind of comes home, and it's in sprinklings of the theme. Not seeing parents, a video gamey soundtrack. All of it is just honed into a feel and an atmosphere to this horror.
And how is I guess the acting is actually pretty good for these young actors.
I think so.
Actresses.
Yeah, especially Mika specifically.
She would have to make it.
Yeah. And I think I even mentioned it follows in our review of Watcher because again, I think she's great. There's a lot to love as far as even the other performances of the young actors. It's certainly not annoying, and I think that's something I bring up just because it's something that I criticize so often as well.
Sure.
But yeah. Driving it all is this atmosphere, cinematography, the feel, the visual design, the mood, the tone. All of it is so dialed in, and I may not have enjoyed this director's other works, specifically
I was just about to ask, what else do we get him in?
So he primarily does a film called Under the Silver Lake, which...
yes, that's right, yeah.
Reception of it is all over the map. People call that film a masterpiece. People hate it. I was not a fan of it. But this one is truly dynamite. And for that reason, I definitely will keep always an eye on Mika as an actress, and then also him as a director as well.
Cinematographer also did Under the Silver Lake and also did Us.
I guess that kind of makes sense. Us, I think, needs a rewatch. Honestly, I'm curious most of all of Jordan Peele's, of his movies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back to Us, because it's kind of one of those that definitely needs to bake in the oven. So, but yeah, put aside some time to watch this. As far as a film that is for the spooky season, I really was reflecting this week on the mood that horror puts you in. And we'll touch on in just a moment for Smile, how much something can just be devoid of atmosphere and just about scares. And I think, like I've said, probably going back even a year in episodes, when it comes to horror, it is about atmosphere. It's about immersion. And it follows
absolutely.
It follows is truly one of the best. So put aside some time to watch it. We're going to go ahead and give It Follows an 81.
Ooh, very good.
One of my favorites, for sure.
That's awesome. And that's funny because you were just craving it coming off a Smile.
Mainly because almost identical and very simple premise. I mean, simple elevator pitch, and boy, was there better comparisons to make, better time.
All right, Vince. Wow, that's okay. So that's It Follows with a big 81%. We want to remind people here, completely producer supported. We're going off the value for value model. So, are you getting value from the podcast? Are you going on the site and getting value from that? Are you finding that you're into movies more now than what you were a year ago? If you could, you go to dailyratings.com and you throw us back some value through monetary support. Go to the donations tab and write a note along with it, which we're going to read. And that's just kind of how we're going to keep this thing going. So nothing this week, but, another huge way to produce is tell a friend, a family member, your brother, your sister, your cousin, whatever. If you could just kind of pass along the message a little bit as we're finally starting to fill out the site and that starts to kind of get wrapped up a little bit in the next few months. We're really going to, want to kind of come out with a splash and everything like that. And all those who have been enjoying the show since, it's just a huge help for us.
It's been nice to hear the varieties of ways people enjoy it. Some have written in and say they like our banter. Some like the commentary on the movies, the watch guide element of it.
Right, definitely.
Some have just, we had questions for us of what we thought, so kind of more of an opinion way of it. So,
and you can write whatever. And yeah, like whether it's questions, critiques, comments, whatever, and we're going to read it.
You can tear me apart on movie reviews. The Cusack stands, the Cusack fanboys are going to be marching on us.
That would be great. Oh my gosh. But again, it's dailyratings.com, and you can donate whatever amount of value you feel you received from us. All right, Vin. So with that, we're going to go ahead to our 2 films in theaters here, and we're going to start with that film. Let's go directly to Smile, directed by Parker Finn. You kind of gave us a little bit about it. It's a smaller film, easy premise.
Yep.
But as far as it delivering, that's a big no, is what it sounds like. But
yeah,
what do we get with this film overall?
Yeah, so it's first-time director and writer Parker Finn bringing this film to us, and I originally thought that might be the best indicator for this film being a fresh take. Unfortunately, I was wrong. Smile is a dead simple premise and feels like something greenlit by Blumhouse or something like that. Upon seeing the death of a What?
No, it's just every subpar, poorly executed film has to do with Blumhouse with you. Because you're so lukewarm on them, and they barely make anything that actually you consider good.
They're like the working man's horror, you know what I mean? They really pump them out.
It's very funny.
I'm obviously not a fan, so I'd never tracked it, but I think Blumhouse even cut a deal with Hulu at some point to just like pump out I think triple-digit horror movies or something or
really?
something like an outrageous number of films.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it feels
you
like
got me correct.
Yeah, it feels like B-rate, or it feels like second-rate kind of backseat to A24.
You're right, for sure. Definitely double A for it. So, upon seeing the death of a smiling patient, Dr. Rose Carter, played by Sosie Bacon, Kevin Bacon's daughter, I believe, is haunted by nothing else but that smile as she slowly loses her mind. Folks, this is jump scare galore. I mean, wow. It's that is my pitch for the film, jump scare galore, and in that lies my comparison to Blumhouse schlock. It just really doesn't have... I should say maybe it has the framework of trying to be more, but when we talk about the horror, when we talk about what is actually scaring you, it is not atmosphere, it is not design, it is not anything but an actual physical reaction to a loud sound being played around you. I mean, yes, there are scary elements on screen. Don't get me wrong. There are, this is a scary movie. This is not it isn't scary or anything like that. But when it comes to my critique of a jump scare, you have to understand they could literally play any loud sound and pair it with any visual almost, and you will have a jump scare. It's a reaction. It's not actual horror.
It's literally going from a quiet to loud sound.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's kind of
And I kid you not, every single scare in this is a jump scare. It got me almost every time. But that's not, it's one, with that being, it's point, it's objective to have every one of these scares be a jump scare. Mm-hmm. There is a numbness that happens after a while to the film. Because you're then expecting the setup's the same.
It's just so saturated with it.
Yeah. And I can't stress enough, it is scary. I think folks going to the theater for a scary October film, they'll kind of get what they want here. But
you do need films like this. Jump scare films do need to exist.
It's true.
But if it's overdone, it's overdone. And it would be nice if it's weird that you were finding that it was just literally volume-based scares.
Yeah. It really is. On that note, I think a slight positive for me is actually sound design. I think it did make for a good theater experience if you're, curious to watch this. And my praise goes beyond soundtrack and score. While there wasn't, again, I kind of grew numb to these scares. There is good audio design here that makes watching this on a good sound system worth it, whether that you go to theaters for this or that you maybe wait to see it at home. So a slight positive here. Back to the negative, characters are like extremely basic, especially when relationships are strained, because our main character's waning sanity is really going to stress the relationships around her. The film presents itself as a psychological horror, but is far too shallow for this genre. Our protagonist, she's a psychologist. Trauma is a theme that is brought to light in the script, but it is only very loosely tied to horror, and primarily because jump scares are not psychological. The actual horror that's being built here is not psychological. There's no tie back to these themes. What's the tie back is that, well, guess what? There's going to be another loud noise that's going to jump down to your scene.
Does it come across as, was it kind of lazy filmmaking?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I maybe hesitated from that type of wording in my notes because Parker Finn, first-time director, I was excited to support,
Sure, yeah. What studio did this, by the way? Do we know what backed this? Oh, you're right. No, it is Paramount. So. Yeah.
And it's just, man, it was disappointing for that same reason that I was initially hoping that this would kind of be a fresh take or some sort of thing like that. Instead, I was walking away and I was like, wow, man, I can't wait to watch It Follows again.
Man, that's so funny.
Yeah. Also, more of a horror mystery than just a straight horror, because so much of the runtime, I would say a majority of the runtime, is dedicated to investigating the curse on her, this smiling curse. We have an absolute snoozer of scenes where she is just on the computer or scrambling through papers, and again, by the formula, very quickly we understand that these are just quiet moments to have a jump scare payoff. We're not.
Yeah. There's no depth to the film.
There's no depth to the investigation. There's no depth to the mystery. I think a perfect example is this horror is missing a key element to any horror mystery, in that we do not have the rules of the curse, the rules of the monster, as I might have referred to as before on other episodes and podcasts. I think if you're going to have a mystery quality to it, you want problem solving. You want to understand the rules of what can be done, what can't be done, and is our character going to beat that or not? I think that's a major part of the blah feeling to the story and why it is all very surface level, that we never really get an answer of what the rules of the curse are.
Right.
Despite these investigative segments in the film that are boring and just set up. They're basically just quiet moments so that there's as much as of a variance, as much as a difference as possible to the to the loud music cues, the string hit of it. So. And like I mentioned a bit ago, there are plenty of horror movies that have done this significantly better, and mainly It Follows is my pivot recommation. You're excited for this? Guess what? Watch something else. That's good. Taking the reins.
If you don't want the Frighteners, watch Casper.
It's so true. I really would stand by that. But I do think a lot of people will see this because of the marketing, and I think the marketing push for this film has been huge. We have guerrilla marketing attempts. We have, just putting it in the face of a young demographic through social media marketing. And honestly, I don't know if it's going to pay off in the box office or not. I don't know.
Oh, you don't know the numbers?
No.
It's paying off plenty.
Really?
It's doubled. It was only $17 million to make.
Okay.
And worldwide, it's already made $92.
Whoa.
It's made $50 million in the States.
Wow.
Two weekends, it's made $50 million in the States. I think it's because, one, a lackluster movie.
Competition.
Yeah, for the past 3 months or more. And we're kind of dry as far as October movies go.
Yeah.
This is the weekend where Barbarian should have came out.
100%.
And I bet it would have done so much better. But this is kind of it.
Yeah.
It really is.
And it's easily going to knock Barbarian out.
Yeah, I mean, Barbarian, I think it's out of maybe even main theaters, basically. It's maybe hanging on a little bit. But so for 2 weekends, it's grossing $50 million.
Yeah.
That's good for a first-time director, a horror movie.
Sure.
So it is doing well, I will say. I don't know how much. I mean, when you make a $17 million film, they say you double it for
marketing.
And let's say even they tripled it, they still made money already.
Yeah. Oh, for real. Absolutely.
And
at
that point, good for Paramount.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where I kind of even word it. I think this is the type of film that I could probably say whatever rating I want, and people are probably still going to go see it. In some capacity.
It's all that's there. People want to go to the movies to be spooked out in October.
Yeah,
and we're kind of just dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as the
quality, this is when Mad God should be out.
Sure.
Barbarian.
I think Barbarian is definitely my go-to, just because it's so close. It just why did
what
they...
are you doing coming out 3 or 4 weeks ago?
I know,
it's dumb.
Yeah, it really is.
They need to put us in
a drop ball in charge of all film marketing, all placements. But yeah, like I said. This could very well be a thing that you see regardless. And hey, don't get me wrong, it's going to scare you. It is going to make you jump. And if that's, what you want out of the horror, fantastic. I think there is a judgment on quality, though. And I think there's a judgment on my perspective of what horror is. My perspective on horror is atmosphere. It is not a physical reaction, a Pavlovian response, if you will, you know what I mean? And again, I stress to you that it really does dull after a while, especially for how much every single scare is based around these music cues and these string hits. So I would have taken a lot of things in the horror slot of this month. Of course, we have the coming 12th entry of Halloween, which we will not be covering. I'm not covering 12 movies. So we're just going to put that one out there right there. And we will see what comes out on top in October. Towards the end of the month, we have, what is the film? Pray for the Devil. And I think it's looking like Smile's set to dominate. For the ratings, we're going to go ahead and give Smile a 49.
Ooh, 49. Just a tick below. Just a tick below.
Just a tick.
Yeah, I mean, it's beating Woman King. Like, it made more money than Woman King.
Prospectively, when Woman King came out?
No.
Oh.
No, it's already...
like still in the...
Yes. Like, Woman King made 60-something million worldwide.
Oh, wow.
And Smile made 90.
Okay.
90-something.
Proof's in the pudding.
It was just crazy. It was just weird.
You get a creepy girl.
I think it's October. Yeah, it's October.
Yeah.
And like you said, kudos to Paramount, because a lot of that is probably marketing.
Sure.
Not because it's actually a good movie.
Absolutely.
Okay, Vince, so we're going to go with our last one here. This is one I was interested about. I was actually, when I first kind of saw this, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, I really love this cast. Really love this cast. And then David O. Russell, who is in, it might be American Hustle is in my top 12, top 15, potentially of all time.
Whoa.
I love that movie.
Hot takes all over this episode.
Regardless. So I was excited to see this. Talk about not doing well in the box office. Like doing really, really bad at the box office.
Destroyed.
This is Amsterdam. It is a large cast. It's directed by David O. Russell. Can you kind of set the film up, and how did you like it compared to everybody else?
It's a little messy. It's definitely a little messy.
Okay.
Russell was back after a 7-year hiatus, and like we mentioned, folks, had a lot of success. The Fighter, into Silver Linings Playbook, into American Hustle. I mean, got him 3 Oscar nominations.
He's on a roll.
Yeah. His movies are stylish, actor-driven, and packed with licensed soundtracks. Actor-driven, yes, but this film is kind of a different beast, and I do appreciate it in the sense that this is a little different for O. Russell. He is Oscar nominated 3 times now, and the question is, will this talent-packed movie get him the win? I honestly don't know, because this film is being torn apart critically.
He's not doing well in the box office either.
Yeah, shocking, almost. So, well, let me say this. I don't think that it's shocking the box office.
Okay.
I think it's shocking the critical panning of it.
Okay.
Yeah. The story here is, like I said, a bit of a mess, but it's very heartwarming and optimistic in its outlook. Amsterdam is about a friendship between three comrades of World War I, and tied together even tighter when a murder mystery concerns all three of them for personal reasons. I would say the genre here is a kind of a mismatch of a lot of things, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's got sprinklings of noir, mystery, comedy, certainly, romance, and I would say a big umbrella to that, not that it is a genre in itself, but it is a feel-good movie, I would say. It really is coming out with this heartwarming, optimistic tone to it, which I kind of didn't expect from those trailers, very stylized. I expected kind of another American Hustle in a way, you know?
Sure.
That it was about these three friends kind of like heisting or something. Not that at all.
Okay.
So, our trio is Christian Bale, of course, returning to work with O. Russell for the third time now, and newbies Margot Robbie and John David Washington. Excited to see all these three, John David Washington especially. I'm really excited to see what he can do with his career. Of course, this is Denzel's son, for anyone that doesn't know. And I think all three do a decent job here in this split lead performance, but my real praise goes only to Bale.
Really?
Yeah, I think...
Even Washington, no? Because we loved him. He's in my running if we had to pick Bond.
Oh, really?
Right now, I would want, he's not going to be because he's American, but it would be him.
Yeah, true. I mean, especially I think that was maybe the behind the scenes reason why Tenet was, or why he was chosen for Tenet.
Yeah.
You know, it really was trying to get that out.
But Robbie and Washington just can't hold up to Bale.
More so, not even just Robbie and Washington. Everyone besides Bale is just being themselves. Bale is really the only one that is trying to be his character here. And you can say, all right, well, if you have a big, wide cast here, maybe that's the reason why you want to see. You want to see just kind of the actors act.
Right.
But, you know, it's kind of tough because Bale is the only one to really take a critical character role, both in the arc of his story, but also in like this early New York accent work. Everyone else, and believe me, there are a lot of them, seems to just be themselves acting-wise, which could be annoying. Equally how it could be a draw for some viewers, could be annoying to the viewers that see this big wide cast and they say, oh, no thank you, that's giving me a headache. You know, I think there's equally amount of viewers on both sides.
Could you compare this to another film? Or at all, like, were you thinking of, like, I don't know how long these other characters are in here, but, you know, I almost think of Wes Anderson almost in Grand Budapest had a huge cast that come in.
And maybe even Feel Good Vibes. I don't know. But it definitely didn't feel like Wes Anderson as far as, you know, actually the feel of the movie.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. But as far as this many characters popping into a film, I mean, just to run down the list a little bit, you have Chris Rock, Anna Taylor-Joy, Zoe Saldana, Mike Myers, my boy Timothy Olyphant, and then, of course, Taylor Swift, Rami Malek, Robert De Niro. A huge, huge cast.
Yeah.
And so were they just popping in for 2 minutes being themselves?
No, if anything, there's a lot of long-term characters into this, in the sense that almost no one goes away. But, you know, I can't stress enough. It's I don't know, maybe some of the fault goes to O. Russell in not directing his actors. But
or did he go out and get these actors just because he wanted these kinds of people? Yeah,
kinds of people. Maybe it was, again, a kind of a marketing draw. But I'm telling you, Bale is the only one that's actually a character.
Because because if you think about it, when we see Mike Myers in Inglourious Bastards, it's fantastic.
Oh, phenomenal!
It's great. I mean, he's not in it much, but it's fantastic.
He kind of plays a similar, like a British, type of.
Sure,
I don't know why he's getting cast for these British roles.
But he's Mike Myers still, kind of. Yeah.
It's tough. Let me unpack a little bit more of the negative because again, I am coming positive on this film. And again, it's for some of the stylings and some of the feel and substance of the story itself, but it is a bit of a mess. I could understand at least some of the sentiment of critics on this one, tearing this apart. The dialogue is just a little rough here. Like I said already, the accent work across the board is not great. There isn't a believability to the 1900s to 1930s New York setting. And I would say, again, that blame falls on almost every cast member. Everyone's just kind of doing their own thing, and it's a little disorienting. I say the best is Bale. Actually, just doing a character, kind of almost by default, he wins it. The spectrum then goes, I would say, right in the middle is De Niro, and then he's just De Niro.
Right.
But not really damaging the outlook of the film or
Right.
anything. But also what's new with De Niro.
Yeah.
And I would say, very unfortunately, the worst is probably Chris Rock, who his persona of Chris Rock actually detracts from the film quite a bit.
Really?
There's a very early scene in, they're all serving in World War I, and he's in this regiment, and he's calling people crackers and whatnot. It's just like the slang is not... The dialect, the accent work, it's all not there. And I think in that moment specifically, I was like, I don't mind Chris Rock in this film. If anything, I was kind of excited when I saw him in the trailer.
I would be excited to see him in this.
Yeah.
Because I actually like the fact of him acting. Like, I like the sound of that, yeah.
Absolutely. But he's just Chris Rock, and Chris Rock does not feel like a 1900s, soldier,
Right.
And I can't tell you how much that takes away. All the world building that O. Russell is doing, this cast really detracts from it because they're not directed. They're not focused, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, I don't know, don't you feel like he gets it right in all of his other films?
I think so. You look at American Hustle, maybe a lot is on...
Yeah, who's the guy... Who's the Arrow guy, the Marvel guy who plays the mayor in...
Oh, yeah, Jeremy Renner.
Jeremy Renner is great in American Hustle.
Absolutely.
And playing kind of that Arrow, playing that part.
Yeah. Even Bradley Cooper, of course.
Yeah.
Kind of this is the scumbag and whatnot. But yeah, I know what you mean. There are...
He gets it right.
Everyone's kind of everyone is doing character work.
Yeah.
Here, I don't know, maybe it was just the burden of just so many actors being a juggling act that... I don't know, that direction was not there. Unfortunately, what multiplies this a little bit is the script itself. Characters speak in very stilted ways and kind of just dump exposition in every single line. I'll give you an example because it actually it spurred me to write it down. And when I'm in the theater, I'm really, a pet peeve, I don't even like going on my phone in any kind of film, watching film.
Definitely.
No less the theater. But it was one of the few moments that I wrote down something word for word. I think it was Anya Taylor-Joy's character. She goes, "Don't you call him a coward. He doesn't like that. 20 years back when he was in prep school, bullies call him that." And it's just like, no one talks like that. and I gotta say, that's almost every line. Every line is just so
structured and it's not letting you do any work to figure out who these people are and what's going on.
Bingo.
It's just told to you.
It is spoon-fed.
Which makes it unbelievable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And hey, why I say this is... maybe a multiplying factor is, again, Russell's writing here. I think maybe that's a slight misstep, but most importantly, it's combining with this lack of accent work that it feels like just, that spoon-fed aspect is being delivered by celebrity well.
It's very surprising.
Yeah.
He hit the 70s so well.
Sure. And maybe some of the success with American Hustle lies on just... very prominent soundtrack, doing a lot of heavy lifting and whatnot. That does sell mood and whatnot.
The actors were killer.
Yeah,
even Jennifer Lawrence was great in her role.
Absolutely.
Huh? Very strange.
Almost every line with it. That is really my main criticism: writing and performance. And you can say, well, that's pretty critical, but luckily, I really enjoyed this story, and I want to, the second half of this is really talking about and combating maybe some of the critical panning of this film. People or critics are hating this film. And they're really destroying it. And I can't say that's a reason why it's flopping. I think it's probably flopping on its own merits. I enjoyed a lot of this story. I think what I enjoyed most is the camaraderie. There is a great sentiment towards veterans of the Great War, and it's tackled in a refreshing light. Where other films today, I think, would try to shock the audience with dark and real kind of a PTSD lens, if you will, to World War I. Amsterdam has a wonderful optimism to how the characters lean on one another for healing, and it's not corny either. It's not something like in previous criticisms of maybe 50s movies or something like that. It is really not corny. Characters are horrifically scarred by the war, but in a lot of ways, the tone maintains an upbeat quality. For instance, there is a wonderful love of singing in this film. It starts as a therapeutic tool for the friends and kind of grows to show the bonds between soldiers. Really, the whole arc of the film is around this loyalty and what it takes to earn loyalty. These characters understand that there will always be hard times, but they have worked through those hard times together, and now it's the good times. And I really did find this outlook refreshing. I thought it was a heartwarming story, and again,
It's true, we just don't get it anymore.
yeah, we don't get it.
It's good that it didn't have a 50s squeaky clean feel.
Right.
You know, there's difference there.
Yeah, and I think it's primarily in that the film isn't shying away from actually the physical, harm and mutilation of these soldiers coming back from World War One. Bale's character is a doctor as well, so that's kind of also in the forefront of it. But yeah, it was I kind of
refreshing.
Maybe I just fell for the feel good aspect of it, but I thought it was a really nice, optimistic way at approaching the horrific realities of war.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, it's not always going to be the hard times, and I thought that was really nice. The film takes its time getting there, but if anything, this wide cast shows who respects and understands these bonds, and that, who doesn't is basically our opposition. Who doesn't really get what it takes to be optimistic after facing these horrors together and having the bonds of friendship. The people the characters that don't understand that, those are the antagonists. Those are the opposition. I think that was great. Sadly, this film is going to flop in the box office. Already has, pretty much. Yeah. And, that's probably for a multitude of reasons. And I will say, yes, it is certainly a bit of a mess, like I explained, but how this film is getting chewed up critically is insane to me. I think a 34 on Rotten Tomatoes when I took this note. Is that looking about the right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually hasn't changed, but 34.
Yeah, I mean... A 34, you know what I mean?
It's just not,
yeah.
You gave 34 the Frighteners. Were you waiting for me to go in on that?
No, I really wasn't.
You waited for me to pick that one up.
That actually got the Frighteners, this is not. So, folks, if you're not into horror this month, maybe give this one some love. And certainly don't let these asinine review scores scare you away altogether. We're going to go ahead and give Amsterdam a 64.
Oh, okay, there you go. 64, good movie.
Yeah.
I think I just want to check it out for David O. Russell's sake. I'm still interested to see the cast, honestly.
Yeah.
How was Ollie Font? Bad? It's probably
not
bad.
Memorable.
Just say bad. Okay.
Yeah, not memorable.
I don't necessarily think he's a good actor.
Right. I love that you threw in your boy.
Well, he is. I mean, Justified. I was on the train kind of early with Justified.
Sure. Where did that train go?
And then Tarantino picked him up, by the way.
Very true.
I mean, come on now,
Yeah, absolutely.
Deadwood also is probably his best role.
Oh, true.
Which I hope there's still a Deadwood movie coming out.
Are they talking about that? Or
I think it might be in production potentially, yeah. It's apparently happening. I just hope it's soon. So, okay. I might want to take back my top 12 to top 15.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Oh,
your reaction scared. Yeah, your reaction scared me.
No. Listen, you like what you like. Whatever you want.
I love that movie.
Sure, it's a good movie.
I'm actually actress's name. What?
Not Lawrence. I know Amy Adams.
Yes. I'm starting to be less and less impressed with her.
Oh, really? Okay.
And in that movie specifically, so it's actually bringing the movie down a little bit more. I'm finding that she's the same person in every single movie. Every movie. Yeah. She goes through she always has serious dialogue and she delivers it in the exact same way. Whether she's talking to Jeremy Renner or everybody Christian Bale. And then I don't
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, Jeremy Renner in Arrivals, Christian Bale in this movie. She what was it? Oh, I just watched The Master.
Oh, that's right. That's why this
thing.
is top of mind.
This is it. Well, kind of. Yeah. But I picked up on it before, and then on The Master, I was just like, yeah, she is the same person in every film. Anyway, I do like American Hustle a lot.
Hey, listen, it's a good movie.
I might take it back to the top. Maybe I'll say top 22. So I don't know why I did 2.
Listen, you have hot takes, give them, and if anything, I mean, that's a perfect example. You know, you like what you like.
It's a great
There's
movie.
No problem.
You rated it high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not 85, though,
I think I look back on American Hustle, and I just feel, especially now, episode 53.
Yeah.
I have to be consistent. If I'm giving flack to, what I'm gonna say, Forrest Gump, I have to give flack to American Hustle because it has the Forrest Gump syndrome to the soundtrack.
Ooh, I think I'd fight you pretty hard in that.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's almost like I could just give it to you for Forrest Gump with some discrepancies.
Sure. Right.
I don't. Yeah, I'm gonna disagree with that.
Okay. All right.
That could be.
We'll have the head-to-head over American Hustle. That's a title match.
But I think you gave American Hustle low 80s.
Yeah,
and
I think
they're
so,
well
too.
deserving. That sounds yeah.
I forget what it
sounds
is.
like a daily
but
rating score.
Yeah, absolutely.
Might be 81, 82 or something.
And no joke, I actually love Amy Adams and Christian Bale specifically. I love their romance in that film.
I think it might be an 82.
Really?
Because I think I put it on the site and I was upset. I called you, I think.
I don't remember
and
this call.
I think I called you and I was just like, you meant to make this an 85, right? Like you meant to make this in the all-time, right? And you're like, no, I think it's an 82. And then I was like, but you gave Nice Guys an 85, Nice Guys has an 85 or 86, and you're like, yeah, I agree with that. I think that's what it should be. And I'm just like,
stand by him.
I was like, no, but you meant to put American Hustle. I couldn't, but I think it's at 82, which is extremely respectable for the daily ratings.
Right.
Yeah.
And this goes back even to the 80s, you know what I mean? That's still, it is colossally worth your time, you know
yes.
what I mean?
Yes, exactly. So. Much different than Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic.
right.
For everybody, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, Vin, looking at these scores here, anything else you want to add, or are we going to roll credits here?
No, really, only other thing I'll say is, folks at home, if you have any horror movies that you maybe want me to tackle in the weeks, obviously we're working with a week delay, write in, let us know. I'm happy to have, some different perspectives, because I got some deep cuts, and, you may not be too curious about these deep cuts, so I'm going to go with where I want to go in the week.
It would be cool if people had their own deep cuts.
Yeah.
I don't know if many people do know about It Follows.
Sure.
We had Coherence the other week.
Yeah.
It wasn't horror, but it was
certainly
sci-fi
indie.
weird. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, Vin, thanks for watching these. Thanks for stopping by. Folks at home, we'll run it down one more time here. We have The Frighteners with a 34%, 1408 with a 67, It Follows with an 81, Smile with a 49, and Amsterdam with a 64%. Folks, we thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, could you give us a good rating or tell a friend about us? If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, or if you'd just like to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer and go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel you receive from us. We're looking to build this into something large and great, but also be independent from those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.